we do want to break down the news involving President Trump in the case out of Georgia because there's two parts to it. First was, if you're just joining us, Fani Willis was supposed to testify today. She was subpoenaed to testify to a Senate committee. The Senate committee is set up really to look at the use of taxpayer funds. And the questioning was not going to be about prosecuting Donald Trump so much as it was the use of $865,000 of taxpayer money to pay Wade, that special counsel she had a relationship with, who had no experience prosecuting a RICO case. And in fact, it is not uncommon in a very complex piece of litigation for a DA to bring in someone from the private sector to assist. But usually you would bring in someone from the private sector who is an absolute expert. And the reason why you need them is because you didn't have someone within your office who could do that. But what did she do? She defied the subpoena and said, I'm not coming. I don't care what you ask. Of course, this comes in light. Now, remember, this case is now on appeal. The appeal will not be heard until after the election by the Georgia Appeals Court. We have already filed our brief. The ACLJ is involved here. We have filed our brief to the Georgia Appeals Court on this issue of whether Willis herself should be and continue to be able to prosecute this case, or have there been so many missteps by Willis, including what she has said publicly, what she has done as DA, and of course how the case has progressed, that she should be taken off the case. So that has been filed, and our brief has been filed at the Georgia Appellate Court. But while that's going on, I just want to remind you, if you're just joining us, three more charges were dropped against President Trump by the trial court judge who said, you know what, this is the state of Georgia. You are a DA in Fulton County. You can't bring federal charges against President Trump.
That's right. And Judge McAfee had previously dismissed some other charges. So now President Trump was originally charged with 13 counts. Now he's down to facing 8 counts in Georgia. So they're chipping away with these motions filed by the attorneys in this case at even the broad case that Fani Willis had brought originally, now down to 8 counts against President Trump. However, the case still lingers there, and it's in a sort of legal purgatory as we wait on the appeal at the Georgia Appeals Court. As you mentioned, Jordan, we filed our brief in that appeal on the disqualification of Fani Willis, which will be heard in an oral argument on December 5th. We probably won't get an answer to that until early 2025, after the inauguration of the next president of the United States. And what we're seeing here, though, whether it be the way that this case continues to get whittled down at the trial court level, or the Fani Willis determination to just go ahead and not show up after being subpoenaed by the legislative body of the state of Georgia, it shows that she herself holds a two-tiered system of justice for individuals in the state of Georgia. She, the entire time, tried to preach that Donald Trump wasn't above the law. No one's above the law when it comes to the justice system of Georgia. But however, when the Senate of Georgia issues a subpoena after you decline to voluntarily show up, and then you're subpoenaed by the Senate, things that an investigative body, an oversight body in the Georgia State House can do, you defy it by not showing up. It shows that you don't really believe that no one is above the law. Fani Willis herself thinks she's above the law and can just defy a subpoena by the Georgia Senate. Now, the Georgia Senate is saying that they are going to go to court and try to compel her through a court order to obey the subpoena, where they would receive documents and testimony from her. But it seems that at a time where she probably doesn't want to be making more waves as we await this oral argument in December, she's going to continue to do her own thing. I almost half expected her to bust into the Senate chamber and say, "Here I am," just like she did in that hearing.
About that before, was
but she's
any
a no-show.
Chance of that? But her attorney communicated that this was that. We actually said that she's going to pull some stunning in and show up, in a half hour while maybe we're still even on the air, like she did in court in that unprecedented way that has likely led to why there's this a case that's scheduled for December 5th on whether or not she is even properly, she should be disqualified from this case, which would effectively likely in this case, because it would maybe a different DA. Her entire office, so Fulton County's entire DA office, would be disqualified. And then you'd have to look at would another DA in Georgia want to actually take this on and start from scratch with all the mess that she has caused. The answer is likely not. But she's brought a lot of this on herself. What was interesting, though, today is that we did want to make sure that she wasn't going to pull some kind of stunt. It's kind of sad, Will, when you think about our legal system. And even the next case in the next segment, we're about to announce that the ACLJ has gotten right to the Supreme Court, because my dad is going to join us for that special announcement. So Jay Secular will be joining us on the air. Is that we even have to think that way about prosecutors, that they may tell you one thing and then run downstairs and show up in court to testify, or maybe run across from their offices into a state Senate committee and end up testifying.
And I think what our audience will learn, if they haven't figured this out already, I'm sure many of our audience actually has, but when it comes to the political parties in this country, the Democrats are not the party of choice. The Democrats are not the party of democracy. They are the party of control. And that's their end game, whether it be in elections and who can vote for whom, or it comes down to when you're going to show up to a subpoena in the Senate or who you're going to prosecute. They don't care about choice, democracy, or any of the things that our Constitution lays out and protects in America. They just care about control. And we've been seeing that for years, but now more than ever, I feel like it is brazen and it's on full display, and they're not trying to hide it anymore.
Remember, they tried to prevent you from even being able to vote in the primary for President Trump, who was easily leading all other candidates in the primary, to the point where we had to go all the way, the ACLJ, representing the Colorado Republican State Committee, all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court to guarantee that President Trump would remain on those ballots and that the American people would be able to vote for who they wanted to in the primary. Not to guarantee that he would get their votes, but just that you would have the option to vote for the candidate who was the leading candidate in the party's primary. And of course, victory there at the Supreme Court. Another similar case, but it's going to be a little surprising for you, I think. But we are committed at the ACLJ. When we say we're committed to an election integrity and your right to vote for the candidate of your choice, and when you look at politics in general, I think a lot of you are thinking right now with our colleague Tulsi Gabbard and people like RFK Jr., looking into the future, that there really could be the potential for a third party to emerge. But it will never really be able to emerge if they are constantly treated differently than the two major political parties